Hello all and welcome to another review of mine. Today I'm going to review this ration number 7 Danish 24-hour military ration, which as a main has chicken rogan josh with rice. So this ration is supposed to feed you for 24 hours. This is a 3-year-old ration, and I think the best before date is actually the 15th of March 2024. So this one might be out of date, close to a year, but let's see and open it up to see how the components actually held up. And since this is a Danish ration, I presume a lot of the components will have been produced by Odifo. And 2 videos ago, I reviewed a Dutch military ration that contained a lot of Odifo components as well. So interesting to see what the overlap between the two rations will be. And let's open up the box and see what we get. The box has a little opening here, so you can tear it. And then opens up quite easy, and this is how that looks like. We have the main on top. It's quite compact actually, so it's a lot smaller box than the German ration, but it is still quite compact. So first of all, we have this retort pouch with chicken rogan josh with rice. Get 400 grams of that. I always like Indian food, so that will probably be great. Then we have our porridge or havregrøt. So this is simply porridge with oat flour. We had this in the Dutch ration as well. In the Dutch one, it did come with some seeds. And here I think it's only oats. That's it. So this is really just a plain porridge. Then we have our whole rye bread. First time I've seen this in a ration. It feels hard as a brick. I'm guessing that would be for lunch. Then we have fajita spice chicken jerky by Wild West. We have a chocolate cake from Odifo. Then we have some raspberry jam, Nutwalker peanuts barbecue flavor. Then we have a pack of raisins, hazelnut spread with choco flavor. These are really good. We have 72% dark chocolate, a pâté of sorts. No, we have mackerel in tomato. I'm guessing that would be for lunch with the rye bread. Then we have another jam, this time strawberry jam. We have a cocoa drinking powder. Then we have a lot of small components actually. Brussels pâté. And then we have a second Brussels pâté. So we have 2 Brussels pâtés. Here we have another little can. This is tuna with sweet chili. Interesting, 48 grams of that. We got a cranberry flavor protein bar. Then we have a apple cinnamon flavor cereal bar. We have a Ziploc bag. Some more stuff. These are dried cranberries. These are raisins. This is a lemon-flavored Odifo drink. Then we have another Ziploc bag, accessory pack. That also is a lot of stuff, actually. 3 different types of chewing gum, 2 spoons. Then we have this toothbrush, which is interesting. Antibacterial wipes, 3 Colombian freeze-dried coffees, 2 green teas, 2 little packs of sugar, a whole bunch of toothpicks. So dental care in this ration is really good. And then we get peppers and 3 salts. Very honestly, this is a lot more than I expected. I thought with like 3,756 calories wouldn't contain this much food, but it has a lot of food. Here we have our grofkeks, so our whole grain biscuits. We got 3 of these, like in the Dutch one. Put the stuff a little bit closer because we're not in frame. So this is all of it. That's actually so much more than I expected. Because we still have our full korensbrood, pan complet, so 3rd piece of whole grain bread. And we have a soup, which is oksekotsuppe. So I presume that's probably a beef kind of soup. Interesting, this is the same package as you get in the French or the Dutch rations, but they have the different soups or the contents on the back. And here they only have it in Danish. But then this, for instance, is mode d'emploi, which is French. So I'm guessing that this soup they only have in the Danish rations. And perhaps some of the other soups they just put in, the French or the Dutch ones. But interesting to see that this is the same company that supplies all of these different MREs. That is it. This is the box. It's empty now. What's different about this ration, and I guess what's different about this ration is that you only have 2 main meals and sort of a bread course, because we have a lot of things, because these are, I'm just gonna put this sort of closer. So I just redivided the food a little bit to show you just how much it is, and sort of ration has a bit of a different structure. This is real food, like these are main meals. But then this basically is all a bread course, and then this is all of the snacks. So it's actually really snack heavy. And I guess the bread course is then the lunch or the main meal. And then you have a lot of snacks to tide you through the day. So this looks like a lot more than 3,756 calories to me. Also quite a few variety of drinks. It's definitely not close to the Dutch ration in drinks, but we get 5 hot drinks, and then we get one carb heavy drink. Very excited. Obviously, I'm gonna divide up these meals into breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'll select my breakfast now and be back to you very soon. So this is what I chose for breakfast. We have our porridge or havregrøt. We have our rye bread. I accidentally broke it. There's 2 slices. So this has a best before date of 15th of March 2024. So this is probably why the entire ration has a best before date of 15th of March 2024, even though a lot of the components have an expiration date in February or March 2025. That's also why they're probably so hard, and then this might not be fully edible anymore. And then I have the cranberries and my raisins. Mix and match that with the porridge, because I think that is probably by far the plainest item in the ration. So yeah, let's first rehydrate our meal. This is the porridge. It has a nice little gusset. It's very powdery. So this is mostly actually flour with some bits and pieces of oats. We need to add 300 milliliters of water. We also have a little fill line there. All right, there it is. It's a big blob of the flour. Spoon is a little bit flimsy. I'm afraid of breaking it in the porridge. The thing I'm the most excited about the whole rye bread, but first we need to do our Colombian freeze-dried coffee. You need 180 milliliter boiling water. So there. Let's open up the rye bread. Why not? Wow. So it smells off. Or it just smells like really whole grainy. So here we have it, our rye bread sort of caked together, and any moisture that this ever had is completely gone. Danish people do love their rye bread. I lived in Denmark for some time, and they were quite keen on rye bread. Also the open-faced sandwiches they call smørrebrød. That is how that looks like. It's basically now a cracker. I can see if it's edible. Nah, I don't think it's off. It's just, this is harder than the panzerplatten. This is not really edible. What I'll do then, for the Brussels pâté and for the strawberry jam, I'll use some of the grof cakes. It's a shame though. Would have been a really cool item if it would be good. It is not edible. Like, anyhow, let's have our grof cakes. These are also not really edible, but in a different way. They're just like very dense, grainy cardboard. I don't like them at all. So I'll use that with the Brussels pâté. And this is 25% just regular meat and 25% liver. Put a little bit on the grof cakes, and I'll take a little bite by itself, or a big bite. And that's a really good pâté. It's a nice, super creamy flavor. It's obviously a bit salty. You can definitely taste the pork meat, and the liver only gets there at the very end. So it's a very mild liver flavor. But yeah, that's pretty good. Now let's try it with the oatmeal biscuits. Yeah, now these oatmeal biscuits are really not my thing. There it close up. It's very, like, there's a lot of husk in there or something like that. But yeah, let's try that with the strawberry jam. I'll put some of this here, and I'll eat some of it out of the pack. That's very nice. That's actually really good. There's a very natural sort of strawberry taste to it. It's actually really good. It's a really good jam. And honestly, something sweet like jam on this whole grain biscuit makes it a lot more palatable. You get 3 of them, and you get 3 sort of sweet things. So I'm guessing that's what they're for. Let's wash that away with some coffee. That's quite a bold coffee. So it's not bitter, it's quite smooth. there's some bitterness there, but it's not like too bad. It's not like, you know, cheap Nescafe imitation coffee. So that's a really good freeze-dried coffee for a ration. Then we have our raisins. We got 2 packs of this, 25 grams. Here we go. Very dark, a little bit oxidized, I guess. And then we have our cranberries, 25 grams of that. Here they are, also quite dark. Well, let's try them first individually. So here are the raisins. So yeah, that's pretty good. They're like regular sultanas, they're not too big. They're still, even though they look dried out, they're still a little bit moist. And they're sweet, but they're naturally sweet. They don't have any, as far as I can taste, like extra sugar added to them. So not bad. And I also think you can see that on the ingredients list, the only ingredient in this is raisins, which, you know, can get more simple than that. And the cranberries do have sugar, cane sugar on them. So here we have them, 60% cranberries, 40% sugar. That's quite a lot of sugar. Let's try. Can't really taste the cranberries that much. They're not nearly as good as the ones in American MREs. But funnily enough, even though it's 40% added sugar, they taste less sweet than the raisins, perhaps because they're a little bit like tart or sour. But I found that interesting. Like, these are natural raisins and they taste like sweeter than something that's 40% added sugar. And then finally, before we have our main, we have our peanuts with barbecue. So yeah, let's try these. And that's also quite pleasant. And I can distinguish any like real individual spices or herbs there. I do have to say, I like these fried peanuts, obviously. I think like the deep fried shell over them is pretty nice. It's pretty crispy and definitely adds something extra to them. So I guess the more you eat, the stronger the flavor gets. So now I do get a little bit more of the seasonings and the herbs and the flavors. So yeah, overall, not a bad item. Definitely like it. We have our porridge, rehydrated. Well, I guess. It became like a goo. So yeah, let's see how that goes. It's 400 grams, so it will be a lot. And it does look the same as the other oatmeal. So basically what you have here is just like the flour that turned into the porridge. Then you have some of the whole bits that form these little oat clumps, basically. So here we have it. It's not looking majorly appetizing, but actually probably tastes quite good. So let's try it. So yeah, it's not bad. It's plain for sure, but it's actually naturally quite sweet. And the way these sort of clumps work, they actually do give you quite a lot of texture. Use some of our additional items. So I'll add some of the strawberry jam. And I'd probably also I'll just put some of the raisins here and then some of the cranberries there and see which combination works best. So let's try the oatmeal with the strawberry jam. So here we go. This is with the strawberry jam. Yeah, that's exactly what it needs to give it that little bit of extra flavor, a little bit of extra sweetness. It doesn't need a huge amount. I'm guessing you could also use the sugars for this. So that would be one way to use them, because I wouldn't use them with my coffee, though you can use them with the green tea. And you could probably also put the cacao powder in this to make it chocolate flavor. And there's a few ways to make this even better, because it's not bad on itself. Now with the raisins, that's also not bad. Jam is definitely better. And then we have the cranberries with the porridge. And that's not also a great combination. So yeah, what I would do, probably put either the jam on one side and the apricot jam on the other side. So the strawberry jam on one side and the apricot jam on the other side. Or use both bags of raisins and mix them in. So overall, not a bad breakfast. A shame that the rye bread is inedible. Tea is okay, raisins and cranberries are okay. And also with some reinforcements, the porridge is not so bad. So definitely a decent start of the day, considering as well that this is a huge amount of calories actually. So yeah, next up is lunch, which is gonna be a little bit different than with other MREs. Hello all and welcome back to lunch. So this is what I chose. I put it in the Ziploc bags. You get 2 of them. I presume that is to put in your 2 meals because the box isn't very portable. So I'll just put it here. So this is what I chose for lunch. This isn't a real full meal, at least not in the way that other MRRs give you. This is basically a bread course. There's also the rye bread that I did not eat because it wasn't good anymore. But basically, we have our macaron tomato, 48 grams of that. It's a paste. I'm not a big fan of mackerel, but perhaps it is processed in such a way it's not too fishy. It smells like canned tuna to me. And then we have our tuna with sweet chili sauce. We get 48 grams of that. And it is also a pate. It smells a little bit less fishy than the mackerel. And I guess the main way to eat this is with this whole wheat bread. We get 56 grams of that, so not a huge amount. Smells okay. Feels a little bit dry, but still looks perfectly edible. Let's see. And then we have our protein bar with cranberry flavor. These are always pretty good. There's some Rice Krispies in there, and they have a good texture. The best before date of this is the 14th of May, 2025. So looking a little bit at the dates, I don't really understand why they put the rye bread in there, because the expiry date was 8 months before most of the other components. And I think that just actually hurt the total best before date of the ration by 8 months. So it doesn't seem like an extremely smart solution to me. Then we have our Orifo. 72% dark chocolate, not bloomed, looks in perfect condition. And we have our raspberry jam and our chocolate paste. I'll eat that with the haverkicks. Then we have our green tea and our drink. So let's make those. This is just a plain old green tea bag. And I'll add about half a cup. And then we have our lemon drink, to which we need to add 500 milliliters of water to 40 grams of powder. It dissolves quite easily, so let's add that to a regular glass. Then let's get to our bread and our fish pastes, basically. So here we have our bread. It's a little bit dry. I guess it's out of date by a few months. They do break open relatively easy, so you can use this as flatbreads. Let's try a little bit on its own. And the taste, okay. But let's try it with some of the spreads. Here is the tuna fish bread on its own with sweet chili sauce. It just tastes like canned tuna. There's a little bit of acidity to that, but I don't taste any sweet chili sauce at all. To me, this is just tuna pate. There's nothing really else to it with a little bit of lemon. But let's try it on the bread. And that's okay. Not my favorite. I'm not a fish person in general. This is edible for me. I wouldn't eat this for fun. There's almost no texture to the pate. And then the mackerel in tomato sauce. This is a much more fine paste. So here it is. This is a really fine paste. Almost no texture to it, probably. Let's try it on its own. So it definitely has a stronger fish taste to it, but I don't mind it at all. I think it's actually better than the tuna fish, which it's a little bit more fatty. And because of that, it's a little bit more enjoyable. Here we have it on our bread, so let's try. There's some sort of aftertaste to it. I guess that's just canned fish. I don't really eat a lot of canned fish. And then we only have sweet stuff left, and I guess the most substantial item is this protein bar. Not a huge amount of other protein sources in there, just the pates and some of the chicken in the main. For the rest, it's quite carb heavy. So let's try the protein bar. It's supposed to be cranberry flavor, and I guess you can see some cranberries in here, but it's a really small quantity. Only 1.5% cranberry. So for cranberry bar, 1.5% is not a lot. I think for protein bar, that's okay. Has a little bit of a chalky texture, a little bit dry. So let's wash that away with some of the lemon beverage base. That's actually quite refreshing. Obviously very sweet. It's basically 40 grams of sugar. A little bit of like lemon taste, but not too strong. Pretty decent lemonade. Let's get to these Grofkeks, or our whole grain biscuits. Not a big fan of these, although if you slather them in jam or Nutella, peanut butter, they get a little bit less dry. Honestly, these would be my least favorite cracker type cookies that I've ever had at an MRE by themselves. Let's try some of the raspberry jam. We have one there. It's very red. I don't know about that, but let's make one big jam cookie out of this. And that's a lot better. You still get a large amount of the whole grain stuff from the oatmeal biscuit. If you got like 20 grams of the jam on it, it becomes a lot more palatable. And here we have our other biscuit, fully intact. We will add the hazelnuts on top of that. It's a little bit runny. I needed it a little bit, and this is actually quite a good imitation Nutella. It has 13% hazelnuts and sugar as the main ingredient. Then it also has 7.5% cacao. Let's try this imitation Nutella whole wheat biscuit. And that actually isn't bad. It sort of tastes like a chocolate covered digestive now. Quite an improvement. Now, we have only 2 items left. First, I'll take the dark chocolate. Beautiful, pristine condition. And it does have that classical military chocolate taste. It doesn't melt in your mouth like normal chocolate, but that's a pretty good chocolate. It's not bitter, but it's definitely not sweet. 72% cacao as well, so quite dark. Finish up the meal, we have our green tea. We get 2 bags of that. So it's a little bit more bitter than it probably should be, but you also get sugars, so you can definitely use that. Yeah, that was it for lunch. Overall, wasn't like my favorite. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with dinner. Hello all and welcome to dinner. So this is what I'll be having for dinner. Chicken Rogan Josh with rice. This is a wet retort pouch, which has 119 calories per 100 gram. So it's not super calorific. It is 400 gram dough. And the best before date is February 2025. So before I do anything, I'll just heat this up first. So I'll put this in some boiling water. And while it is heating up, let's get into some of our snacks before. So first up, we have our apple cinnamon flavored cereal bar. I like these from Odifo better than the actual protein bars. So this is just a standard cereal bar. And then we also have our Wild West fajita spice chicken jerky. Interested in that? We got 25 grams of this. I've never had this flavor before, so it looks quite stringy. And you get 25 grams, but not a huge amount, to be honest. They look like bigger chunks, and they do smell a little bit more spicy than the other ones that I've had. This is Wild West brand, which is the standard one for European MREs, basically. Looks a little bit like chocolate, almost. So let's try. And because it's chicken jerky, it's also quite dry. So I prefer the beef jerky more. So there's a little bit of paprika extra, but it is not very smoky. It's also not very sweet, and it's also not very salty. So, but this doesn't have a huge amount of flavor. And then we have our chocolate cake. This is 85 grams, so quite substantial for dessert. And the best before date is March 2025. All of these Odifo cakes have been pretty good so far. This is how that looks like. Comes out very clean. There's only a little bit of residual left. Well, if we're already there, might as well try it out, right? Because we're still waiting. Opens quite well. There's no chocolate chunks in there as far as I can see. Just a chocolate pound cake, basically. And here's how that looks like. Feels pretty dense and pretty moist still, so held up hopefully quite well. That's okay. It is actually quite dry, so I had to wash it down with some of the lemon beverage. It doesn't really taste a huge amount like chocolate. I definitely prefer the lemon cake I had in the Dutch ration, because that had sort of a soft filling inside, and this doesn't, so it's a little bit dense. But we're still trying the other things. Let's try our cereal bar. Here we go. This is apple cinnamon flavor. Don't really see any pieces of apple in here. I do see some raisins. Let's break this open. Try it. Perhaps it has a good apple cinnamon flavor. So it actually tastes more like Christmas spices than like apple cinnamon. I guess cinnamon is a Christmas spice. Hopefully you also get some hint from cardamom or allspice or ginger. So it's actually not bad. And then we already need to go to our drink powder. So I'll just get another glass. So first up, I'll make the cocoa drinking powder. It's the exact same as we had in the Dutch ration, which was really good. 28 grams of powder. Here we go. And then let's add our water. And then we have our beef soup, as far as I can see. It's a very savory scent already. You can see there's some pasta in there as well. A little bit clumped up. We need to add 175 milliliters of water, so probably a little bit more than that. Looks quite dark. Then finally, we have our chicken Rogan Josh. It's nice and warm, got a little bit wet. And the main ingredient here is chicken bouillon, chicken and rice. And then there's some vegetables, tomato paste, bell peppers, and a bunch of Indian herbs like fenugreek, cumin, curry powder, etc. So, and this is how that looks like. Looks quite appealing. Looks like buttered chicken in one kind of package. So let's get that out. So the rice went in the bottom, got out really clean, so that's nice. And it smells really good. It actually smells a little bit like just regular buttered chicken you could get from an Indian restaurant. And there's also some white beans in here, which I don't think would be a regular ingredient in an Indian dish. So yeah, here we have our main. The other thing, on the box it said we should have hot sauce, but I did not see any hot sauce in this ration. So we have a really big chunk of chicken here, some of the rice and some of the vegetables. Spoon is kind of small for this kind of food, and I don't think they'd be sturdy enough to eat directly from the bag, but yeah, let's try. And that is actually surprisingly good. That has really nicely complex Indian flavors to it. To me, it tastes mostly like butter chicken. Definitely tastes the cumin. There's no spice in this at all. Yeah, that's a really good main, basically. The rice is a bit mushy, and there are some of these little white beans in there that give it a little bit of texture. I don't know if you can see them here. And again, the chicken was actually quite good. It's a little bit dry, but what can you expect sitting 4 years in a retort pouch? They're really nice unprocessed pieces of chicken. So to wash that away, I know we have mixed up the order of items, how you would normally eat it. I guess you would start with the soup, then with the main, then have your cake as dessert and the cereal bar and the... But as I was waiting for the water to be finished, let's try a sip of our oxycoat soup or beef soup. It actually has some body to it. It's not a watery soup. I guess the main taste though, for me, is obviously it's very salty, which is good for these kind of soups. But there's a lot of herbs in there as well, which I like. So I think that's actually a pretty good item. So then we have our chocolate milk. This is a really nice chocolate milk. I already had it in the Dutch ration. Probably put like 250 mils in it. We should have put 200 mils in it. So it's a little bit watery, but that's still an excellent taste. Overall, I think that was a good main. I think some of the components probably didn't hold up as well as they could have. So yeah, I'll finish this off. But I just wanted to give you my thoughts on the full ration. I think the best part of these Odifod rations are the mains. I think they're pretty solid and I think they're very high quality. I think this ration would be a lot better with perhaps less items, but with 2 mains instead of one sort of bread course. Although I know culturally the Danes love their rye bread and their dark bread. I think most of the sides were pretty okay. None of them were really great, but I do think this was a pretty serviceable ration. At any rate, this was it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. And as I told in my last video, I think my next review is gonna be of a meal cold weather ration. So thank you again so much for watching and see you next time.